what horses can teach us and what we can actually teach horses. So horses have been a part of my life now for almost 20 years, and the personal development, spirituality, horsemanship, communication, relationships, it's all the same stuff. You guys ever have one of those moments in your life where you just look and you're like, what the heck? What am I doing? And you just sort of have one of those like sort of gobsmacked moments, right? You go, it's like, something's got to change. You don't know what's really wrong. You don't know what's really right. You just know that where you are, it's like they say, when one door closes, another door opens, but it sure is hell in the hallway. Well, I was in that hallway, and there was a moment where I said to myself, something's got to give. And I was a cigarette smoker at the time. I said, if I can quit smoking for 90 days, I'll reward myself with a horseback riding lesson. And little did I know that would lead me down this Alice in Wonderland rabbit hole of synchronicities that led me to the recognition of my connection to God. If you ever have a moment where if you've ever had a God moment, you know what I'm talking about. And if you don't stress, because there are God moments available to us when we get quiet and listen, right? They don't call me a horse whisperer because I whisper to the horse, because I listen to the whispers of the horse.
But before we get started, folks, make sure you hit the pause button. Okay, go down below. There's a Rumble link. Go over to Rumble and follow us over there. QFS1776.com is, without question, the holy grail of what's to come. Okay, T-shirts. You got to get yourself decorated. This way people will ask you, what is XRP? What is the quantum financial system? What is this? What is that? And you send them where? To QFS1776.com, where they need to immerse themselves, because we're going to burn down this system down to the ground. And out of the ashes will rise the phoenix. There'll be nothing to go back to. Believe me when I tell you that. Also, our Telegram groups down below. If you want to learn what's coming and you're sort of a little scared, I understand. Believe me, I was there too at one point. And if you need more than $10,000 worth of XRP or $1 million worth of XRP, you come see me. Send me an email at QFS1776@gmail, and we'll get you as much as you want. Gold and silver. Welcome to CarminesGold.com. Don't waste not even a second looking. Cheaper prices just don't exist. How important is it for you to own gold and silver right now? What does it mean to me personally? There's an economy that's about to crash beyond what words can explain. In 5 words, I'm going to educate you on gold and silver. Are you ready? You need to own some. Simple.
Hi, Elisa V here. Did you know that medical bills are the leading cause of bankruptcy in the United States, accounting for 66.5% of bankruptcies? In fact, in 2022, 17% of adults with healthcare debt either declared bankruptcy or lost their homes due to it. We can all agree that the healthcare system is broken. Well, there is an alternative that I want to tell you about. It is Impact Health Sharing, which Yahoo News is calling the disruptor in the $4.6 trillion healthcare system. With Impact Health Sharing, you can choose the doctors, clinics, and naturopaths that you want with less restrictive guidelines. Medical bills are reduced to their fair market value, and premiums are 30 to 72% cheaper than competitors. Plus, Impact Health incentivizes healthy habits like supplements, gym visits, and therapy. Call 844-275-1056 and use the code Mel Carmine for a free quote today. Well, hello, and I hope you're having a wonderful high vibrational day today. I am Elisa V, and I'm here on the Mel Carmine Show, and we have got a fantastic show for you today. As you know, for the last few weeks and going forward, I have been sitting in for Mel. I've had that honor, and I've had the wonderful opportunity to have some amazing guests talking about some of the most incredible discussions and intriguing topics of our time. I would also like to remind you guys that we have the upcoming Quantum Summit 2 that will be in Cape Canaveral on March 8th and 9th. And let me tell you, these tickets are going pretty fast. So you're going to want to go to the website, which is, I'll give that to you right now. It is quantumsummit1776.com. And you're going to want to secure your tickets, because 10 days before this event, the tickets are going to cease to be offered, and you don't want to miss this opportunity with the amazing panels that we have. I am so excited for the fact that I'm going to be one of the co-MCs at this event, and it's going to be more of a celebration, quite honestly, than anything else. We are going to have some incredible guests. As you know, the event is hosted by Mel Carmine and his esteemed wife, Amber. And we're going to have individuals that are shaping the future of science, health, and governance. So please visit the website and get your tickets now. And I look forward to seeing you. So without further delay, I am very excited today to have our very special guest, Jen Zoe. And she's here with us, and we are going to rock and roll and talk about horses today. Hi, Jen.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
So glad you could be here. I want to tell everybody that may not be familiar with you a little bit about you. Um, Jen actually hails from a small town in southeast Missouri, and she's always been fascinated with horses. Her career with horses, however, did not begin until the age of 30 when she started taking horseback riding lessons. And she realized she wanted more and quickly developed her career with horses by studying with some of the best horsemen in the world. While attending a personal development event, she realized that the parallels and patterns between horses and humans are quite profound and needed to be brought together. And that's when Jen started to understand the deeper way that horses teach humans. Today, Jen runs Jenner Zen and her equine-assisted empowerment programs to help transform lives through the spirit of the horse. And living in West Palm Beach, Florida, at her horse sanctuary and retreat center, Jen works with people from all walks of life and all parts of the world, creating breakthroughs with her seminars, trainings, and retreats. Wow! So I was struck, to be honest with you. I've never been much of an equestrian, though I love horses, but I never really had the training. I'd gone horseback riding, but I started my kids pretty young. They were about 7 or so, 8 years old when they started. And I have to tell you, I guess I had the misconception that unless you really start this from a young age, like how do you develop into this amazing skill and develop that ability to work with these tremendously spiritual and beautiful creatures? And so I am doubly impressed by how you started this, what would be considered a little later in life. I'd love to hear how that all happened to you.
Well, I always like to say things aren't happening to you, they're happening for you. And sometimes life circumstances can put you in that space. But Elisa, thank you so much for having me on your show today. I'm so excited to share with you a little bit about what horses can teach us and what we can actually teach horses. Horses have been a part of my life now for almost 20 years. And I started my company Zenergen. It's Zen Energy, and I'm Jen. That's where the name came from. So about 10 years ago, after attending a personal development seminar, you guys might know that some of the listeners might know a name by the name of Tony, or a man by the name of Tony Robbins. I went to one of his seminars, and that really kind of that was like, you've ever been gobsmacked, that was what happened. I was like, oh my God. It's like those one of the like, oh, one of those moments like the personal development, spirituality, horsemanship, communication, relationships, it's all the same stuff. It's, what he's doing with people, I was doing with horses. And so I recognized that an opportunity to serve a larger audience and have a deeper impact with what my skill set I had with horsemanship and in the natural horsemanship world, to bring this to the masses, to bring this not to just the equestrian, but bring it to the horse lover like yourself. So none of my programs require that you have any horse experience, no matter what your age. And where that all started was, if you guys ever have one of those moments in your life where you just look and you're like, what the heck am I even what am I doing? And you just sort of have one of those like sort of gobsmacked moments, right? You go, it's like, something's got to change. You don't know what's really wrong. You don't know what's really right. you just know that where you are, it's like they say, when one door closes, another door opens, but it sure is hell in the hallway. Well, I was in that hallway, and there was a moment where I said to myself, and a lot of your listeners probably can relate, you know, something's got to give. Like something's got to give. And I was living in Kansas City at the time, and I was driving by a stable on my way to work every day. Guess what I did? I kind of did that rubberneck thing where you're like, driving by and looking at the horses out in the pasture, and sometimes people out there riding and jumping and, like playing while I'm working. And I'm just like, I was drawn to it. Right. And so I kind of declared, and I'll never forget it. It was July 31st, 2004. I was watching Meet Joe Black shampooing my carpets, my perfectly didn't need to be shampooed carpets in Kansas City. I was so OCD back then, But I was like, I was bored. I was just kind of miserable in this sort of ennui. And I said, you know what? I'm going to start taking some horseback riding lessons. And I was a cigarette smoker at the time. Like that's the most disgusting thing I can imagine. I said, if I can quit smoking for 90 days, I'll reward myself with a horseback riding lesson. And little did I know that would lead me down this Alice in Wonderland rabbit hole of synchronicities that led me to the the recognition of my divinity, the recognition of my connection to God, the recognition, and I'm going to get emotional about this, you guys, because if you ever have a moment if you've ever had a God moment, you know what I'm talking about. And if you don't stress, because there are God moments available to us when we get quiet and listen, right? They don't call me a horse whisperer because I whisper to the horse, because I listen to the whispers of the horse. And that's what I really discovered, is that horses are a lightning rod to the divine. And this path, this opportunity to start out, like I was doing just regular old, trot here, trot and walk and canter and like traditional horseback riding lessons.
Yeah.
And when I discovered a natural form of horsemanship, of a way of training horses, this like kind of like the horse whisper, if you've ever seen that old movie with Robert Redford, it was I was like, I don't know what it is, but I want it. And so I started down this journey of developing my skills in natural horsemanship, on watching a movie with Brad Pitt, and Anthony Hopkins, like just going, I need to change my life. And those of you that are listening, like if you're feeling that, listen to it, because it's God tapping you on the shoulder. It took me 10 years later, and a devastating divorce. Like he left me homeless. He was a financial criminal. I found out like from a stranger. Like think about this, guys. What do we do when we wake up in the morning? We wake up, grab our phones, scroll on social media. Don't lie, you do it. We all do it. And I got this message from a strange woman about my husband asking me to check it where he was, where, you might want to talk to your husband about where he's getting his money. And that was like another, not a moment. It was more like, the response is very different. But that didn't mean that I still didn't need to make my actions different. Right. So, and I say this as a lesson to you all that are having these moments at this time, especially now, during the holidays. It's been an election year, a lot of volatility in the United States on a lot of different levels.
Yeah.
And, so just getting still and quieting those distractions and tuning into what God, or, in source, or, infinite intelligence, universe, whatever you want to call it. For me, I call it God. And I go, what is he trying to tell me? What am I missing? Where should I go today? How can God please use me today for the strongest voices I can have, for the gifts that are channeled through me? And as luck would have it, it's with something I love. And there's actually a Japanese term for it called the Ikigai, Ikagi, Ikigai, however you say that, Ikigai. And it's a fourfold approach to how you spend most of your days. It's doing something you love, number one, doing something you're good at, number two, doing something that serves mankind, number three, and doing something that you can actually feed your family with, that has, reciprocity.
Mm-hmm.
And when I looked up and I said, oh my goodness, personal development with horses, silence. And that was like, it was one of those tuned in moments, tapped in, tuned in, turned on, listening to God, going, that's it. That's what I need to do. And so I started down this path, and I actually started rescuing horses and using horses that also have a background and a history and some trauma, Raise your hand if you've ever had some kind of trauma. And if you
Yeah,
didn't raise your hand, then you must be under the age of 4,
right.
because all of us have had some kind of life handed to us. And to tap into that, and really tune into that piece and go, this is what I need to do. This is what is going to help. This is how I'm going to serve. This is why I'm here. What do they say? The first half of your life, you figure out, what, why you're here. And the second half, you figure out what to do with it.
Yeah.
Well, I just turned 50 and here I am stepping into the second half of my life going, this is how I'm supposed to serve. So I
So I
started building leadership.
Yeah, I wanted to
No.
ask you just to kind of, so you had this kind of little bit of a an insightful moment when you were doing your rugs, washing your rugs and watching TV, and then you decided, you were going to kind of start making these changes, quit smoking, get, reward yourself with. So when that was like 2004. So when did you get this additional, or I should say the BAM about how this could actually be a vocation and a way to help humanity? Like, when did that all happen in the process? Because, like you said, you're just starting off, you're learning a trot, you're doing a little cantering, but then, like, where did that transformation start to happen where, like, no, this is it?
That's so funny because I didn't really even tell the first part of the story of like I got into horses, right? And now
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. And then I signed up for all these classes, like tens of thousands of dollars worth of horsemanship classes. I jumped in. I live in Kansas City. The classes are in Florida. They're 10 weeks. You go on site, and guess what you got to have to take horsemanship classes? You maybe need to have a horse. I don't know. Call me crazy. I had a saddle.
Right.
I had the videos. So literally, Elisa, I would sit in my living room on the saddle watching videos, pretending like I'm riding, like I'm a 5-year-old, right? Like I'm doing this, like trying to and I got all the ropes and the tools because I found an instructor, but the instructor was an hour away because the type of training I did at the barn that was close was not the same, not even close to the same.
Really?
And so I had to drive over an hour away, which luckily, because back in 2004, natural horsemanship was not a thing like it is 20 years later. Oh my God, I've been doing this for 20 years. So, realization. But so I had to drive quite a distance, and I did it because it felt good.
Yeah.
It felt aligned. It felt right. And it was effortless, right? It was effortless to go out there. And I worked with, again, another older person. So I signed up for all these tens of thousands of dollars of training. I had to go to Orlando or Ocala, Florida. I didn't even know what Ocala was. Now I know it's the horse capital of the world. And here I am going to Ocala with no, no horse. Well, just as luck would have it, and the story bears telling because I just quit smoking, right? So the last thing I want to do is go where I'm getting ready to go. So my neighbors across the street, they're like, "Hey, you're getting ready to oh, I'm leaving out the part that I moved to Florida."
Oh, so
Ah!
you moved.
So
So
I
you
lived in
just,
Kansas City at the time, right? And then my ex-husband had a business opportunity in Ocala, right? What the heck? I just signed up for all of these horsemanship classes in Ocala, and my ex-husband, little did I know 10 years later that he was a criminal, but like, let's leave that part of the story for now.
right, right,
So I
right.
get to Florida, right? Yeah. So I get to Florida
So it's
and
all
I'm
the
like,
synchronicity is happening, right?
right? So
Yeah.
yeah, wait. This is like, it gets better. It gets better. Like I keep like, here's the layers to this banana split sundae that I'm making. So here's the next scoop of ice cream. So we go, my neighbors across the street say, oh, you're moving to Florida. Ocala, Florida. Places. And they go, well, let's go out to dinner or something before you leave. And then Randy, he wanted to go to the casino. And I'm like, oh, the last thing I want to do is go to some smoky casino where I just quit smoking, right? So I'm like, all right. So they twist my arm. We're going to the casino. I get up there and I'd won a little bit of money at the craps table. I'm not a big gambler, but $20 in the slots and see the wheel spin and go to the buffet, fine, whatever. So we're doing the things and stuff, and I'd won some money at the craps table, and I was like, all right, dinner's on me. So we're getting there, and Randy's kind of grumpy. He'd lost all his money. So and we're like, all right, let's go eat. We're all tired. He goes, no, 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 we gotta go. I gotta win my money back. And I was like, all right, 20 more minutes. Like, that's it. But we're not splitting up. We're staying together, right? So we get to a bank of slot machines. There's like one slot machine and then someone sitting at one and then three. And there's four of us. And I'm like, we're close, like close enough. No more getting lost and finding each other 10 minutes, an hour later. And the guy that was sitting that was going to split us up said, you know what? This machine's cold. You can have it. And I was like, well, thanks a lot for giving me a cold machine, guy. And I was
Right.
like, no, yeah, right. $6 later, I sit at this cold machine. $6 later, I win a very large jackpot that allowed me to purchase my first horse. And I still
Oh,
have him. His name is
wow.
Dante, and he has been my greatest teacher, my most challenging mentor, and now is probably one of my biggest assets physically and experientially in my barn because he is a 1,200-pound Tony Robbins.
Oh my gosh. What a great, it just always amazes me how whether it's, it's God's puts us just in the right place. And we
Yes,
sometimes can't, like you, I don't want to go, it's smoky. But then you had to be there, right? Because that was the conduit to get you to Dante and start this whole new journey. So
that's
what a
right.
great story. I love it. So, okay,
I
so
got a million of them, sister. I got so many stories like that. Yeah.
yeah. And I wanted to just make a comment about something because I think this is really important to the viewers and the listeners right now. Like we've all been through a tough time the last number of years, right? I mean, we don't have to go through all the challenges and the changes and all this kind of stuff. But the thing that I always find so amazing is that if you really start to focus and listen to that voice inside you, it's hard, it's not always easy. You can start to get the right messages about how the things that feel so overwhelming actually will start to present themselves with solutions that are better than maybe you even thought. And when you spoke about divorce, my whole second career as a life coach and working with divorced people and people going through transition, it all happened because of one of the lowest, most painful experiences I have. So when we go through these really painful experiences, they're not fun. But if we can kind of bring a little bit of calm and quiet, we're going to realize that it's a transformative moment that's bringing us through to like a new life, a new adventure, a new path to, like you
Absolutely.
said, what do we
Absolutely.
do with the suffering, the trauma, what we've
Well,
been
we don't,
through?
I think sort of reframe that. Like, what do we do with it? We don't do anything with it. That's the wrong way to look at it. We don't have to go do like, put it up in the attic and pack it away. We don't have to do anything with it. Because just remember that the way you look at whatever it is you're experiencing is how you're going to have your reality. The way you choose to have a perspective is how you create your own reality by the perspective and story and verbiage, suffering, pain, whatever you want to give to it, away. And remember too, life is always happening. You're like, at the beginning of this call, you said, what happened to you? And I was like, wait a minute, it happened for me.
Yeah,
Life is always happening for me. And what if the pain or the illusion of pain that we tend to label as pain is actually a gift? And you can flip that script because I have had so many experiences and I can tell you so many stories of chances and opportunities and say, and it is hard when we only look at the synchronicities that are happening for us in a joyful way when they're the ones that we want.
yeah,
When we win the jackpot or we get the horse or we get the whatever, the money, the husband, the house, the car, the experiences, when we get what we and our brains want. But what if we put that down and set that expectation aside and stopped thinking about what we wanted and just allowed the day and the experience of the day to unfold exactly the way it's supposed to? And
yeah,
it's like Bruce Lee says, be like water. And you have to be. And around 1,200-pound animals, you absolutely have to be. Because when the number one time, everybody's like, well, we talk about injuries and how you get hurt with a horse. The number one time that people get hurt with horses is when they get in their heads. The number one time that people get hurt in their lives, professionally, personally, in their relationships, in their wealth, is when they get in their heads and they lose consciousness and they think about the past, which is going to cause them to be depressed. It's going to drag their past into their present, or they're worrying and creating anxiety around the future. They're thinking about the things they can't control. They're thinking about the shame and the guilt over the things that they tried to, should have, could have, would controlled and didn't. and they're thinking about what they don't have and what they want versus what they actually have. Because when you can step into gratitude and be grateful for what you have becomes enough.
Yeah, that's so true. And
And
I
you can
think
step out
with
of scarcity and you can step into abundance.
100%.
And I learned that through the horses because horses live in in a theta brainwave state unless they're triggered into fight flight.
Yeah, talk about
Horses,
that a little bit and explain what that means for anybody who doesn't really understand brain waves and everything.
so horses live in the present. Eckhart Tolle writes a really great book called The Power of Now.
Hmm.
Great book, and it's not an easy read until you're ready to read it. I've read that book 4 times, and it took me 4 times to get to the last page because I would get to a certain part in the book and I would realize, nope, I'm still getting in my head. Nope, I'm still like having external thoughts. Nope, I can't meditate for more than about 3.5 seconds. Right. And so I had to learn how to be patient with myself. I had to be patient with what was happening in the moment. And my horsemanship served me. And my horsemanship mentor says something really interesting. It took me years to really unpack and understand. It says, take care of your horsemanship, and your horsemanship will take care of you. And what that means to me now is you don't rise to your potential, you fall to your level of training. And your training is your habits, your rituals, your thoughts, your language patterns. I can tell instantly when somebody's going into a story. It's almost like their eyes roll back in their head and they turn into a robot and they hit play on a cassette tape if you're old enough to remember what cassettes are.
Hmm.
That's what happened. That does not happen with horses. It happens very differently. And when you go out to a horse and you can sit there and again, and my mentor would say, I'd never seen it take longer than 2 days. Who in the hell here has patience to have an improvement in your life to take 2 days? We want that 7-Eleven, convenience store quick fix.
Oh,
We
yeah.
want it now. We have what I call expensive dopamine addictions because we don't know how to self-regulate in the way that we used to as a result of a lot of, screens and media and all the other stuff we don't want to rabbit hole down into a conversation about. But getting still and getting present and saying, I can do the next natural step, even if I don't know what that is, because God will guide me. A horse will guide you to that. And the horses will tell you again, when the still waters run deep is where you get the truths from the universe. And being gentle with yourself and having the patience to be with a 1,200-pound flight animal. They're prey animals. They run away from danger,
Hmm.
right? Be in that space and actually listen to what they're trying to tell you. It will change you. And you will feel a tesseract to the universe. You'll have that lightning rod strike to the divine, and you'll have those synchronicities that you want, and they'll stack on one top of one another. And one of the reasons I love doing conversations and have like this is because we start stacking up. You want to feel good? Start stacking up all the cool stuff you've done in the last 6 months, 6 years, 60 years. Stack it up. I know you ever get in a conversation with somebody, Elisa, where you're like, you start swapping stories from college or swap, this time, one time at band camp. And then like, I remember, and I'm like, oh my God, I was an alcoholic, in college, I partied all the time. And actually, no, you just stacked like an accordion. You stacked a lot of similar experiences together, the law of attraction, right? The more you start stacking, you're like, oh, remember that? And then you remember that. Remember like word association games, right? And you're like, oh my God, no. I just went to a few parties over the course of 5 years, right? I wasn't an alcoholic. I was just like a regular person. But you start stacking those things up and it creates a concentration of who you can and who you can be, who you'd like to be, what you would desire, how you would like to show up. And guess what starts showing up when you start focusing on things like the same things and the same things and the same things, right? I start talking about I want a jackpot to go to Dante to get Dante. My ex-husband had a business opportunity in Ocala, which is where my horsemanship classes had to be. I found a rental house like 7 minutes away. I ended up doing this and then this and then this. And then you start building momentum, right? And if you
Yeah.
have that kind of momentum, what kind of day are you going to have? And I learned that through the horses. I learned that when I could go out and spend time with them and stack these little wins, I started seeing the horses learn. Started seeing the skepticism of a flight animal trust the apex predator. I started to feel a certain way. They can feel your heart rhythms up to 5 feet away. I
Wow.
started to feel that. I started to feel my connection to them. I started to understand their language. And I'm starting to sound like Mowgli off the Jungle Book, but it's true. And you get out there and you like and what was really crazy is like we're doing this call on Zoom probably as partially as a result of COVID, right? A lot of us do a lot more digital things and virtual experiences as a result. So when COVID hit and all of my experiences that I were teaching, leading retreats and immersions and life coaching, if you will, I don't like that term, but I like the relationship aspect. And I
Yes.
was doing all these things, right? And so when COVID hit, I was like, oh, my overhead's still there. The electric bill still comes every month, and I don't have a job. Like, this is my
Mhm.
life, right? So I was like, I took all of my wisdom, everything that I created, and I put it in a virtual format. And I did a live experiences like for a year and a half until I got them really dialed in. And guess what? I'm going to share with you at the end, like an opportunity to access all of this cool, amazing experiences with horses through the videos. And like we're like, there's no way. I mean, I had a limiting belief. I did. In order for you, my limiting belief was this. In order for someone to have a life-changing experience with a horse, they must be in the presence of the horse. When
Right.
COVID hit, I had to go to videos. I had to like trust. I had a leap of faith, my friend, saying, I'm hoping that I can do this it virtually the same way and still have an impact. Well, what happened was I was having not only an impact, but I was having a global impact because I had people from Dubai, the UK, Tunisia, Australia, from people from all over the world that would never have been able to access my programs, have an opportunity to do so as a result. And people were in tears. They were feeling my energy through the camera. That's when we get into the quantum and can fold time and space and say, these experiences, yes, in person are deep and present. But when we can step into this space, then my scope. And I had another kind of God moment because what happened next was even more profound. It opened my mind to say, I've been playing too small. Yeah, I'm having a deep impact on an incredible group of people, but now I want to help more. I don't want to just have depth. I want to have scope. And now, as a result, because of my mastermind, my virtual trainings, my courses, the lives that I do with my horses virtually for people, I
Yeah.
have clients from over the world experiencing horses in a unique way, understanding their personalities, learning about how to deal with difficult and challenging relationships professionally and personally. I coach culture development for businesses. I do a women's mastermind for a relationship for high-end executives. And I've taken everything that I'm doing now, not only to have an impact on people, but to have an impact on my ultimate mission, which I have a little secret agenda about that. I feel like, mwahaha, because what I really want to do, what this really is about impacting the way that horses are being treated in this country and around the world, that they're being sent to slaughter. Did you know that there was a Kentucky Derby winning horse that was found dead on the slaughter? His carcass was found on a slaughter room floor in Japan. He won the most famous race on the planet in the sport of kings, and they butchered him.
Well, you the fact that you brought that up, it's I think it's a deeper issue because it just kind of is another example. And of course, the issue of these beautiful animals and being rounded up and sent to slaughter and all that is like part of the bigger problem, which is really just the respect or lack thereof of respect of other living creatures that God has created, and
We can say all creatures, but I say that I want to tap into why horses? Because people like to compare it to their dogs and their cats and their goldfish and and their cousins,
Well, my point wasn't about the horses. We're going to get into that, and I want to, but all I'm saying is that on a certain level, there is a lack of reverence for life, and in whether no matter where that is, whether it's the human, whether it's having a lack of respect for humans or a lack of respect for animals, and I think in general, it's a bigger issue. So when people like you come along that have a very special relationship and understanding of a specific, amazing animal, hopefully that message can transcend just to the overall ability for people to really be more loving towards anything that God's created. That's kind of the bigger message that I look for, because it elevates all of us and elevates our frequency in the collective when we can just be respectful of other lives and what their specialness is here in this world. But I do want to hear more about, because I know the horses and their very special meaning and I guess the way they've really resonated through history, right? With how powerful their influence and how they've worked with humans, I guess, right? Is that a good way of sort of
Well, and that's the
segueing
point.
in?
Yeah, that's where exactly where you took the words right out of my mouth. Because let's face it, our civilizations, our industrializations of our nations, and not to continue to rhyme, but our civilizations were built on the backs of horses. We didn't ride our cats into battle. We didn't ride our dogs into battle. It wasn't that. And I understand that there's a connection to other animals, but the when you talk about frequency and vibration,
Yeah.
the connection to horse is so powerful because we connected to them as our way of survival for generations. And generational epigenetics, if you want to go into that conversation, we can talk about that, puts it into a space that there is a divergence between horses and humans. Back in the day, the people that had money had cars,
Mm-hmm.
and the poor people had horses. Now everybody has a car, and the rich people have horses,
Yeah,
right? That's,
it's
that's kind
kind of an inversion, right?
of inversion, and it's a divergence as well. It creates a divergence between animals and nature overall, like to your point, like overall, because the conduit and the connection, to steal your word, it was through horses. Again, they fought our battles, they plowed our fields, they
Oh my
carried our family. So we have to have an opportunity to have a connection with horses, specifically horses, because of that opportunity, because of that fact. The other piece that's really important to understand is why horses specifically. And now, okay, folks, if you're listening, I'm not a horse elitist. Like, don't get me wrong. I understand that we all have a deep connection. I have dogs, cats, all animals, the energy of life. I get that. And the horses are just an absolute, one of the most spectacular examples of that, because like, can you picture riding any other animal and looking sexy? I dare you.
Yeah, I don't know
I
how
dare
sexy you look on a camel, right? It's kind of like you're
right?
same.
Yeah, you're just kind of lumbering along, right? So there is that super like horsemanship is a natural thing.
Yeah.
And I think about there, I actually was just reading an article about an urban program. It's one of the largest global urban programs with horses to bring inner city kids to have a connection. And I've worked with inner city kids before, and it's magic to watch how they show up when they are engaged with a horse. They
Wow.
put their phones down, they pick up a brush, they are looking at nature, they're seeing the rabbits and the hawks, and it brings us back to source. And when you can connect to horse, you can connect to source. And it raises the level of vibration and consciousness of people worldwide, because, and especially with the programs that I've created, because who's listening now that has ever taken like a Myers-Briggs or a DISC profile or personality test of some kind, right? So think about that. I have 4 horses. I have 5 actually. I have a mini, But my four horses are like the core four. And I have two extroverts, two introverts, two that are more instinctual in the way they process information, and two that are more intellectual. So think of them like on a quadrant system, like, right? And so if you can go, oh, well, I'm a Dante, I'm an intellectual in the way they process information, and I'm an action doer, and I'm an extrovert. That's why he's like a Tony Robbins. He's like, he gets stuff done, right? That's a Dante, kind of bold and in your face. Bella is a little more like me. Never met a stranger, lover, like friend. You're a Bella. Elisa, you are the exemplification of a Bella. Sometimes we have a lot of creativity, and so we're more instinctual in the way that we process things, and we're still also extroverts. So be careful asking a Bella an open-ended question, or or it might take 2 days, right? And then you have the introverts. You have Maverick, who is more of a feeler. He's sovereign. He's concerned about what everybody is up to. He's very stoic and bonding and loyal. But he like where Bella has like 5,000 friends on Facebook, Maverick has like 5, right? So there, and he has that feeling, nurturing, very deep trust if you have it, but it's hard to get it. And then Trace, he's my intellectual introvert, and he is very quiet, but he's also the magician. So if you think like Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, Trace is like Steve Wozniak. He's very analytical. He might be observing you. It might feel like judgment, but he's also very chill, sort of laid back. And he doesn't do much. He might be kind of lazy until he's inspired. And once he's inspired, it's like game on, let's go change the world. So based on all those four, you probably felt yourself have a little bit of all of them, but you live in one of those areas, right? Because I'm a Bella, as are you, but I have a lot more Dante tendencies than you do, right? So I have that more like, all right, I've got whiteboards everywhere. You can probably see my big calendar, my Jesse Itzler big ass calendar back here. I'm like, let's get it done, right? But I also am that lover. It's like, oh, am I doing it right? And I kind of get scattered like ADHD,
Right.
but there is no is ADHD, by the way. That's my opinion. Might not be popular,
I
but it
happen
is
to
true.
agree with you 100%, but that's another show for another day.
Yeah,
So let me
right.
let me just ask you. So when it comes to and I wanna be mindful obviously of your time, but when it comes to these personality types or these traits or these, right? So how is that how do people get healed? And I'm asking this very like, kind of blunt question, but like, so what does this
No,
have to do
that's
with
the
healing?
easiest question to ask. That's
What does it have to do with
easiest.
healing? What does it have to do with spirituality? Like we understand this
Okay.
a little bit more about the spirituality that you've been talking and the connection to source but tell me about the healing. How does that happen?
Okay, so let me just paint a picture for you because this is like one of my nobody asks me this question, by the way. Rarely do I get asked this question because most people just want to they want to know about the horses and stuff like that.
Yeah.
This how do horses heal? So let me just paint a picture for you. If you were confident, if you were free of the fear of rejection, if you were free of any past resentments, if you were free of any regrets, if you knew that being worthy and being here was your birthright, and you had strong boundaries, and you were clear in your communication to people, and you were loving in a way that you could be compassionate while maintaining your boundaries. If you had around who to trust and who not to trust at what level, like we're not all Oprah. Not everybody can give everybody a car, right? You get a car, you get a car. But we can all give compliments. Those are free.
Mm-hmm.
If we know what inspires us, what is our ikigai, right? If we know what inspires us and we trust source in the actions that we need to take and step willingly and bravely and courageously into the unknown, do you think that you would need much to heal?
Probably not. I mean, we'd be very actualized and we'd be able to trust our own judgment and we'd be very sovereign and have that connection to source. I mean, from the way you described, right? That's kind of the ideal. Everybody kind of wants to aspire to that, right? To feel so good within your skin.
So what I did is I went through each one of the horses and I described their challenges and what it would feel like to no longer have those challenges, to feel safe, to feel confident, to feel secure, to have focus on your vision. That's Bella. To know, have discernment about who to trust and what level, and be bonding and loyal and live your life with integrity. That's Maverick. To be inspired, to know what your outcome is, to understand your purpose. That's Trace. To actually take those actions and know that you are worthy of receiving everything and have a right to be here and boldly step into the unknown. That's Dante. And each one of those four horses will teach you in their own way. My four instructors will teach you in their own way each one of those things that I just described for that idealized and actualized life of beauty and bliss. And how could you not live in a beautiful state and choose the highest vibration emotions available to you if you were living with all of those things I just described? What a beautiful life that would be.
Yeah. Now, when we spoke off camera, we got into it about, frequency and vibration and the way I think it's not exact, but you said something to the effect like, you want to raise your vibration, go hang out with the horses. Like, you can feel it. Tell everybody more about that, because, today I think where people are is that, and it's a good thing, people are starting to, at least a lot of, our listeners here, they're starting to realize the power we have within our own consciousness. They're starting to realize that we don't have to live in fear, nor should we, and that that's a control mechanism that's been used for, thousands of years.
The thing about living in fear. Do you even know you're afraid?
That's the big question, right? Because sometimes it's just so controlling, you don't even know. But for those people who are starting to awaken, what is it about these magnificent animals that just spew out all this high vibration? Can you kind of put that in words? What is it about them?
We've been talking about, it's everything we've been talking about up to this point. They are a lightning rod to the divine. They live in the present moment. They know how to, the zebra knows when the lion is hungry, right? And so when you have, if for you guys that know what this is, if you have coherence, and your brain waves are in alignment with your heart rhythms and are in alignment with your gut, right? Then you have coherence. And when you have coherence, your nervous system your autonomic nervous system can relax a little bit, because most of us are living in a fight, flight, beta brainwave state kind of all the time, sort of like, am I going to miss my turn? Did I miss the exit? Am I going to get to the dry cleaner before they close? Oh my gosh, it's only 12 days till Christmas.
And that's why
Yeah, we
people are
get it from
sick. They're in dis-ease.
Yeah, and so you go out to the horse and take a deep breath. They're in theta, baby. They're in a theta brainwave state unless they are triggered acutely into fight flight, or, and this is a conversation for another day, or if you guys that are listening to this, I'll give you a way to reach out to me because we'll talk about this. The hyper domestication of the human species. That is what's happening right now. We are having a form of hyper domestication, and horses go through, when you hyper domesticate a horse, at least in the first several generations of it, until they become, genetically predispositioned to be in a hyper domesticated space.
Yeah.
They're going to feel that the same dis-ease. But it's like the boiling frog. You guys, I don't know if you know this analogy, it's kind of gross, but here we are. You take a frog, you put it in a pot of warm water, and you can turn the heat up. And if you do it slowly enough, because they're amphibious, you can actually boil it alive, right? Yeah. That is what I'm talking about with the hyper domestication. And horses live in a theta brainwave state when they are in coherence. And because they are domesticated animals, just like human beings are, if you want to call us that, they are actually adapting generation to generation to become more so. So to put yourself in a space with a horse, like I do my best on my property to replicate what a horse's ethology is, meaning what their reptilian DNA allows them to express, so they can be in that state more often than not. My racehorse, I have a racehorse in my barn. His name is Maverick. He won more than almost more money than Seabiscuit. He won almost $500,000 at the track. And if you put him in his stall he starts doing weird things with his mouth because he's trying to escape. He's trying to get some endorphins because standing in a stall for 23 hours a day and then getting out and going around a track with a little monkey whipping you with a stick is not natural any more than it is natural for a human being to sit at a computer for 9 hours a day or a million other things we could talk about.
Yeah.
So what I do is try and replicate at with the best of my ability. I still have fences. My horses don't free range across the country, but I do my best to replicate what would make them or allow them actually to be in a coherent state. So when people come out here that are not in coherence and their brains all jacked up and they're in their heads and they're stuck in their stories and they believe that they don't even realize they're living in a state of fear until somebody hits them in the head. So they have their moment. Then they go out with the horses and they relax the sympathetic nervous system.
Wow.
They relax their brain and their brain becomes a little squishy brain. And we can actually access parts of that, pull the old belief systems instantly and permanently with a theta healing process that I do. And they leave here, whether they've done it virtually or they've done it in person, they leave here rewired, reprogrammed, if you will, for a better life and a higher level of consciousness for themselves and for the people that they love and care about, and having discernment to know the difference.
So tell me about the programs. What should the viewers know about your programs and how to find out about them and, even
Yeah, I do two main things right now. I have a women's mastermind. So ladies, I'm a Gen Xer. So it's Gen X professionals that are like, look, my professional life, I got dialed in, but man, why do I keep attracting narcissists? Like that, if that
It's
speaks to
like the
you, feel like
question of the decade, right?
yeah, right. Exactly. Like, how do I stop attracting the same toads? I thought we were supposed to kiss them until we found our prince. Well, maybe you're turning princes into toads. I don't know. But the key piece to understand is that's my mastermind. That's my women's group. I have a contribution community called the Zen Club. That's virtual as well. It's very inexpensive. It's an opportunity that if you love horses and want to help rescue horses and stop the slaughter, like that's a really good place to start. It's like $37, that which is about the cost for me in South Florida for the bale of hay, which is outrageous, but here we are. And then I do corporate culture development for businesses and small businesses and people that are entrepreneurs. So you can come and do a virtual training with me and experience it from that point of view. I have a free gift I like to offer your audience as well, so you can check it out, kind of kick the tires, see what this is. There's a lot of people like, how the heck am I supposed to learn about horses by watching a video about horses?
Right.
Well, trust me, guys, I had that same belief system before COVID. And when I did, I had to do it because it was either that or not feed my animals and go out of business. And, God was like, nope, you're doing this. And so I did it. And the impact was profound. And I realized that I was onto something by being able to offer this to people like yourselves that may or may not be able to come to Florida and experience a high level private event, which is all I host. I do occasionally host private events, but those are invitation only, or, like if Tony Robbins calls me up and wants to come out and see my horses, I think I'd let him.
Well, I have to tell you, for you guys listening, I did have the opportunity to experience, in a limited way, a training last week, and
That's right. So you know
I
what I'm
didn't
talking
really know
about.
what it was. Someone that I knew had given me a call and like, can you get on today? And I was like, okay, it was like a training. I had nothing, my calendar was free. I was like, why not? And she was saying, there's horses, and I was like, all right, well, I like horses. I don't get it, but we'll see what it is. And when I got there, I was like, oh, and it's true. You wouldn't necessarily think, but the way you do it virtually is quite it's quite interactive, and I think we all are at the point now that we can sort of immerse ourselves, if you will, into a virtual experience.
Sure.
I wanted to just say something when you said before about how, horses have always been part of the building of civilization and all this. When this goes back to the early 90s, and I took a trip all through China, and I used to work there in the toy business when I was doing that, and I took a week to go up, and at the time, there was no cell phone, there was no internet. There, I mean, like when you went there, like people had not really seen Western, faces and eyes, and it was
That's right.
you were
Yeah.
very like, intriguing to them. But I went to the excavation site, which is probably now, if I can imagine, a completely finished, beautiful museum. But literally, they had scaffolds that you could just walk on, and it was the excavation site of the terracotta soldiers in Xi'an, China. And
Yeah.
and if anybody knows the story, and the reason I'm saying this because it does relate to horses, if anybody knows the story, one of the emperors decided, they believed that the way you were buried, you kind of brought to the afterlife, right? So for him, he literally spent his whole life putting together his army, creating these soldiers of terracotta, and with them was the whole fleet of horses. And
Yeah.
so when they found this, there were cracks and this, and so they were piece by piece, they were trying to put it all together. But the piece that I saw when I was there was a couple of these soldiers that had been put together. It's fascinating too, because each one had like a different expression and a different face. And the same with the horses, like they were looking a certain way, or it was very unique, each creature. And it was just fascinating because it was just like rows of his whole army, and with the army were their whole legion of horses. And that goes back thousands of years, where we even have this evidence. I mean, we kind of know from other evidence, but we have this evidence of just how intertwined and codependent in a good way, interdependent, humans with horses, and the way they work together, and just this relationship. So I just always like to say that, because what you say, most people just don't think about, right? You just don't think about that. We've gotten so much information, I believe, about horses and cats, because those are easier animals to have in our homes and share our bedrooms with. And so there's so many different kinds of documentaries and where they came from and man's best friend. But you raise such an intriguing and true statement that the building of our world and the building of our cities and countrysides and farming and all these other things, war. I visited the Spanish riding school in Venice, and most people, whether you believe it's right or not, dressage and the dancing, so to speak, and performance of horses was actually developed as a way to teach the soldier and the horse to work in conjunction, because understanding these moves, the horse was able to be moved and guided while you had a weapon in your hand, where you needed to be able to kind of do this. So it's not really a judgment on whether we should or shouldn't, but the point is, once again, here's this interrelationship between humans and horses for whatever their goals were at the time. So we could speak for hours about this, because I'm very passionate, as you are, and of course the slaughtering is just so absolutely criminal and heartbreaking. But it's good to know that this is one of your missions, to bring awareness. And
Yeah. Because I think it's important to really get down to the brass tacks of it. If you're going to have an experience with a horse like this, and you're going to actually be able to, but it's going to change your life. People are going to start paying attention when we start bringing value, even though that like this is a very subversive way to attack the anti-slaughter campaign. Most people are like raising money for horse rescue, trying to get laws passed, the Anti-Slaughter Act and those kinds of things. But if we can actually have a subversive approach to a socially conscious problem, then we can actually turn the script around and show the value that the horses have. Like I used to travel around to teach clinics all over all over, and I took my horses with me. So wherever I went, I would meet somebody and they would want to, give my horse a carrot or an apple or pet him or, love on him a little. And I would hear, and instantly somebody's telling me a terracotta story about their experience with a horse. So
Yeah.
everyone has had, even if it's not even with a real horse, like your experience wasn't even with a real horse, but it was with a horse. And that was what we have in mind. And again, I kind of sound like an elitist, but at the same time, it's really important to have this reconnection with nature because you just nailed it. We can have our cats and dogs in our homes. You have to go out in nature to get out with a horse. I saw a woman in a Whole Foods with a cat inside a plastic backpack, like off that movie Argyle. I was like, what the heck? And every time she'd turn around, the cat would go sliding to the other side of the backpack. That's what I mean by the hyper domestication
Yes. Yeah.
of our
Yeah. It's like
domestication.
objectifying almost, like just,
You
yeah.
have to go out in nature to be around a horse. Now, I bring my miniature horse in my house and it's cute and it's fun. But generally speaking, you got to go put your feet in the dirt to be around the horse.
Yeah.
And that's the big piece that people are missing, the opportunity to be outside. I can't tell you, it's almost kind of, I don't want to say annoying, but that's the word that's coming up when people are like, oh, I got to go outside in the dirt to be, yes, horses live outside,
Yeah.
you know?
And we
So
know,
it's
like just from a frequency standpoint, one of the things that helps to, immediately raise your vibration is walking barefoot, outside on the grass
grounding.
and
Yes.
grounding
Connection.
yourself and hugging a tree. And, through the years, people have gotten like a lot of backlash for, tree huggers and all this, but it's
That's not what
all,
we're talking about.
but it's
Because
all,
that's
it's just that
off.
connection. Yeah. And
Yeah.
the raising of
And
vibration and being, a little more one. Well, this has been so amazing. Just for everybody to know, we're going to have Jen's information, down below in the description box. If you want to get in touch, you want to learn more about her wonderful programs, which are virtual. So, there's the ability for
and if
anybody,
you
no
want to
matter
just reach
where.
out to me, and if you want to just reach out to me right here, because I never look at the description in a podcast. I just like if I'm listening, just
Absolutely.
message me. Just message me. I'm Jen Zoe Hall, ZoeJenZoeHall. You can find me on Facebook. And if you're not on Facebook, you can just call me 407-412-0252. 407-412-0252. The name of it is Zenergen, like I said, Zenerjen, Zen Energy, and I'm Jen. And that's my website. And you can find me, just Google it and you'll find me there too. And the description of all my information will be in the description. Is it okay if I give out a gift? Is it okay if I give a gift away?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so just I'll send Elisa in the description a link to a free gift so you can see one of my virtual trainings. I'm gonna offer that as, no obligation. You can see, but it's access to my self-love mastery class. So that'll be my gift to the audience for everybody listening. If you'd like to partake and see exactly what we're talking about. We had a lot of questions that maybe can be tough if you're just listening, but go watch some of the videos and check it out for yourself. And you may go, oh, that's stinky, that's not for me. Okay, that's okay. But
Yeah.
give it a try. You might like what you see.
Well, I think, I think the reason that it's so important that you're on this show is because we're always trying to share with everybody different ways, things that resonate with them to help that whole healing process, to bring us, into that state where we're living our truth, where we're being happy. And, it helps the collective, right? The more we all heal ourselves and live high vibrationally, we're helping everybody. So your technique and the things you do are going to absolutely resonate with people, especially the animal and horse lovers. So I
Yeah,
thank you so much for being here today.
my pleasure.
Yes, and to everyone else, thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoyed this today. This was a wonderful opportunity to see some different modalities for healing, for expanding, for self-growth and expansion. And till next time, I'm wishing you a high vibrational day, and remember to live in those energies of love, abundance, and joy. Talk to you soon. Hey, Elisa V here. We all know that legal matters can be costly and stressful. Finding the right representation and dealing with high retainers and hourly bills adds up fast. But what if I told you there's a way to have legal insurance just like your health or car insurance? Legal Shield has leveled the playing field. From just $29.95 a month, you get access to lawyers for personal legal matters. From traffic tickets to real estate issues or trust matters, help is just a tap away on your phone. Call or text 516-493-1742 and use code ELISA Legal to start your journey to legal protection today.
Welcome to carminesgold.com. Don't waste not even a second looking. Cheaper prices just don't exist. How important is it for you to own gold and silver right now? What does it mean to me personally? There's an economy that's about to crash beyond what words can explain. In 5 words, I'm going to educate you on gold and silver. Are you ready? You need to own some. Simple. Time is of the essence as the walls are closing in. This crash is visibly in motion right now. Don't kid yourself. The only way to preserve wealth is to become your own central bank. Just by owning gold and silver, the banks that are going into survival mode are currently stacking gold and silver like it's going out of style. You have the same opportunity instead of keeping your money in paper, which is worthless. Again, this is not financial advice. Going into survival mode is everything. Preserving your wealth and positioning your family to thrive in the near future is paramount. The time to take action is beyond crucial. God's money cannot be faked. It's got intrinsic value. It's got plenty of usability. And because the crypto game could be extremely complicated for most, this becomes the only way to preserve your wealth in the current times we live in. The price manipulation that has occurred over the last 150 years is about to come to a full stop as we move into an extremely different world. And the true value of gold and silver is going to shine like never before. The people who vividly see what's happening have moved into panic buying right now. The people who get it, who are positioned for wealth preservation, who are accumulating every week, every month, stand to change their course of history for 100 generations to come. Buying gold and silver from carminesgold.com at unbeatable prices is the best decision you'll ever make. I'm going to end by saying this. This is my opinion and not financial advice. This crash is knocking on the door, and it's clear. It's here. We can fill any size order, $500, $500,000, and yes, even $10 million. Your best option to preserve wealth, if you don't understand cryptocurrency, is gold and silver. Do it now.